Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Lumastic Live, the 9 a.m. Friday show where we all get together, grab a cup of coffee, which I've already drank,
Man.
and, yes, and reflect on how this week has been for everybody in this community trying to work to create something in the world. So if you're joining us live here, you can like throw something in the chat, like introduce yourself, whatever it is. And yeah, we're just gonna have a really interesting conversation. Josh and I were obviously just talking before, like we do every time,
Yeah,
and we've decided that reflecting on this past week, the things that like Joshua brought up something to talk about is like the idea of scalability in business and specifically like as creators. I put out a blog post last week. Was it last week or this
it
week?
was
When did I?
this week. You sent it
Yeah,
to me Tuesday.
I put out a blog post on Tuesday, outlining what I call the collaboration economy, basically taking like all the things that all the futurists have theorized, like the creator economy, gig economy, sharing economy, and just like talking about how they're literally all the same, and that this next era of the internet is really just about the fact that we are all individual entities that get to collaborate and build structures bigger than ourselves that are non-traditional companies. Yeah, so that's like our core topic today. But if anybody has any like questions, thoughts, things they want to like put in the chat, definitely throw them down below. But Joshua, what was the impetus here for kind of thinking about this, and what are your initial thoughts as we dive into this conversation?
Yeah, I actually wanted to kind of switch it back to you to talk a bit more about the blog post. And
Sure.
like what you're at. Well, one, what inspired you to write that blog post? Because I thought you sent it to me Tuesday, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I read through. I was telling you right before this how it like a lot of it related to like the stuff I was reading in like my open source class, and
Yeah.
so I was just like really curious, kind of like what sparked you to write that topic like during the week, and then also kind of like what did you have like any big takeaways after writing it?
Yeah. Well, so the biggest takeaway was that this one took me a long time to write. I originally was writing it as uh and I think I had workshopped this with you, like a post about what the creator economy actually creates, and how like right now we've been thinking about it a lot as like attention or like engagement, the grabbing of attention. And I was like, that's not really what it creates. What it creates is like community, like deep connection between people, that then is able to be monetized, right? The engagement is the afterthought of like building those deep connections and like that community centered idea. But as I was writing that, I was like, well, this kind of leaves out the complete other, and this is something that I've like been frustrated with about the creator economy as a term for a while, is that we focus a lot on like the producers of the material, and we don't focus a lot on like the audience, right? That quote unquote audience, the other side of the screen. And to me, that group of people is really powerful, and like the interaction between those people, it's a mutualistic relationship, and it one can't exist without the other. And so leaving that other half of like our entire like narrative about what's happening with the economy and the internet, I thought was like kind of weird. And so I just like kept like banging my head trying to figure out what I was trying to say. And I went back to like Paul Sappho's article about the creator economy, and I was like, I just think this is wrong, and I think that we're missing this keystone, that like all of this is just kind of this interaction. So okay, here.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
when you said the like leaving out the audience, like could you kind of contextualize that? Like in what way is that being done?
Sure.
And how will the collaboration kind of economy fix that?
Yeah, sure. So I think that when I say like leaving out the audience, it's kind of how like we've talked about the consumer economy, where like the consumer is just the actor that like kind of finishes the economic engine, right? It's the fact that like somebody has dumped all this marketing to try to like get people to buy something, and then the consumer is just the person that eats it, right? Like
Yeah.
even the language we're using for this is like so gross. And so I felt like when we've been talking about the creator economy, that's kind of what we've been talking about. We've been talking about like all these people that like makes fun stuff on the internet, and then all these people that just consume it, right? That are just like eating it, that
Yeah.
are giving their attention and all these things. And I just think that when I say leaving those people out, I really think it's like it's a disrespect to the fact that this is a relationship that is being formed, and it is not a, because like Oreos doesn't know or care about who bought Oreos. Creators do.
Yeah.
And it's actually vitally important that they do to build a powerful and like lasting brand and company, is to build those deep relationships. Like the parasocial relationship doesn't happen between Oreos and their customers, but it does with creators. And I feel like ignoring that as kind of a dramatic shift in the economy, then you're missing the point of like what the internet is doing to business. Um,
So,
yeah, does that answer your question?
yeah, and I'm just curious, do you have any like examples of someone who's doing it well and someone who isn't? Just like for people who don't know like this topic too much, like
Yeah.
putting kind of giving examples of like what that situation looks like and what a good situation would look like for the audience.
Yeah, sure. I think that maybe a helpful example is actually, so we can talk about like two creators, and then we can also talk about like Oreo equals commensalism. I don't know what that means, but I love that, Chelsea. um, um, so let's take the two creators example for as a use case. So let's take the Vlog Brothers, Hank and John Green, and Logan Paul.
Okay.
So Hank and John Green get between 100 or like 70 and 150K views on every video. Logan Paul gets like 10 million. But so the amount doesn't matter, because those 75 to 150K people would die for Hank and John Green. I am one of these people. They are just so powerful. They have created something so resonant, a real message. Like, they are leaders. They
Yeah.
have power, and like that power allows them to do crazy stuff, like build a huge business that employs like 50 people. They like run educational content basically on the internet right now, and every year they do an entire like YouTube wide charity drive, where this year they raised $10 million
I
for
saw
Partners
that.
in Health. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's wild. So if we think about just the amount of people per action, per like what that power can do, right? And then we flip that to Logan Paul, right? Logan Paul makes a lot of money, but I'll say I don't think, right? I don't think that any of his 12-year-old viewers would like go to bat for him, right? And we saw this with like all of his scandals and all these things.
Yeah.
People cut him so quickly,
Yeah.
right? Like and something I wrote but didn't put in the article, because what was happening to me is I realized that like the thing I was writing is not a blog post, but it would be like a really good book. um, and a line that didn't make it into the final article was that like Logan Paul isn't powerful, he's loud. and
That's
and
interesting.
yeah, and what we're missing right now when we talk about like the creator economy is like that difference between who is grabbing attention and who is like actually engaging people. Like, the difference between like attention and engagement, this I think she's a gymnastics creator or something like that. She said it really well, which was like attention is when you can pour information into people. Engagement is when they're asking you for it.
Yeah.
um
I think that
yeah,
that's a good example too, because I've noticed it even on Twitter and TikTok, because I see Hank Green pop up like all
yeah,
the time. And I've seen tweets from like Logan Paul show up like occasionally.
yeah,
Um, and I do notice when I like go through the replies or even like comment sections, like it's just like the prime example is like when he was raising money for the charity, he was putting
yeah,
out like multiple TikToks, and like I was just going to the comment section, and like you could just like the sentiment in the group in the comment section was so different. Like you said, it's like not the crazy amount of same amount of people that are going to
mhm,
like the Logan Pauls, David Dobrik's, like all those,
yeah,
but they're so like it seems like everyone's on a mission, like it's mission oriented. The audience is like very engaged, like you said, and they
yeah,
really care. Like I feel like they probably feel like they have more ownership along the ride of like changing whether it's like in that cause, so raising money
Yep.
for charity, raising awareness, or and like you said, they released that census, and so like doing those things like really kind of gives also your viewers the engagement, but also like a different kind of like sense of, I don't want to say purpose because that's not the whole thing. That like,
But it is.
but
Yeah.
yeah, and a
Yeah.
small bit of it,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just noticed it was really great, and I was actually saw that TikTok. I think it was like this past week or the week before, so quite the coincidence. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's great. I completely, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and something to add in just based on what you're saying about like this purpose and like this feeling of mission driven, like the reason this would be an interesting book is like all of these things that we're talking about as like a relationship between creators and their audiences. Really, what we're talking about is the relationship of communities, which is also all the shit that we talk about with the relationships in business. Like when people talk about building great powerful organizations, like that's what they talk about, right? It's like how many people are going to bat for the mission of Deloitte, right, versus like the mission of Ben and Jerry's, right?
Yeah,
Like how do you like do the most great work with the few people, right, that are like really would die bleed for your mission, right?
yeah,
And it's all the same, and that's why like I think we are missing the point that like the relationship between a creator and their audience, right? This community building engine is the same as them building a big organization, right? Like, and that's why I like termed this the collaboration economy. And like, I want to pause here. Like, I called it the collaboration economy. I originally had called it the collaborator economy, but because it was like producer economy, consumer economy, creator economy. It's always about a person. But I think now it is no longer about individual people. I think it is about the relationship between us that is like the core of our economic engine. And so like that was a detail I wanted to throw in there and just like explain why I did that. Cool, yeah, but like that's why this collaboration economy is so interesting to me is because it really is like we are turning community building and like these first principles of like how humans form together to do cool shit, like, and we're just like scaling it up in mass because of the internet. And I feel like people just aren't understanding that that is the central piece. It's not about the fact that like, oh, now I don't have to own a car, I can like Uber the car. That's not the car is not the thing that matters anymore. What matters is that like me and that Uber driver and Uber driver and the other Uber drivers are now in this like core relationship mechanism that is like a whole new way of like doing business and like building economies, right? Because like an economy is at like its essence the exchange of value in a community, right?
yeah,
It's just that now we're doing that in such a weird massive way that has like never been seen before, and I think that people are missing it. And it's like it's not like I'm sure not everyone is missing it. I'm just like not as well read probably on this subject as I like to be. But we're only in the first 30 years,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like consumer economy went for 90, right?
yeah.
So it's gonna get whack.
I
And like if we think about crypto and like all the implications of open source software, all this stuff that I didn't get to write in this blog post because it would take too long, right? Like that's what everything is about.
yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
I was just gonna say that's a great point, and I think that like this the idea of the collaboration economy, that's really, first, it's really cool that you made it like an action, or like
Mhm.
rather than a person, because it is
Yeah,
really true. And I think that the thing that's great about that is like people are noticing that like that can democratize the process and give people so much more of a say and make lead to better
yep,
design decisions, because having, like you said, like not everyone's attached to like the missions at these big companies. They don't really feel like they
exactly.
have a say, or like for example, actually in my open source class, I talked about it with like infrastructure and like city design, right?
Yep,
Like bringing in
yes,
stakeholders, right? We
yep,
wouldn't have um like people like pushed into small like areas, and like, just like really messed up disparities there. And
hmm
I actually have like kind of a neat story that from this past week that ties into this or relates. First, it was like in my open source class, we went to the Fab Lab and we were like getting training on how to use like 3D printers for the class because we're doing an open source project there. And so when we're there, the person giving us training was like kind of explaining like how it's cool we're doing an open source project and some of the cool things with the open source. And then they mentioned this like really interesting point, which was that this past year, especially with COVID, and it's like this is a small community example, but how a lot of people in the Charlottesville community, specifically like 3D designers and stuff like that,
Hmm.
started uploading lots of files to Thingiverse in the beginning of COVID with like mask holders and all these
Yeah.
things that the UVA hospital ended up using. And they were just doing it. And people were uploading it. And she was like explaining like people were uploading it, changing the designs,
Yep.
really like getting this out because there was like a high demand. But
Yeah.
it
There's a
got
big need.
yeah, and it got
Mm.
so it got pushed out so fast, and that kind of goes back into your point, emphasizing what how great like the collaboration economy can be because then it wasn't people like a select group of people or a select company doing things. Everyone was coming together and just like boom, bam, here, like no, we can make this fix, and it
Yep.
like scaled really fast in the community. Unfortunately, like you said, like I'm sure there's people out there but like that's not like the part that's being like hit but like that's the
Yep.
thing that's like really making these huge impacts in the communities and like that's one thing I really like about like open source movements and stuff like that and we've noticed it with like privacy because people are like they're trusting like Facebook these big organizations to like tell them like just trust like kind of what they're saying but like no like if you kind of democratize the process like kind of what I was talking about before people will have a say in like what they want and this kind of I think this also ties back to like 2 weeks ago when we were kind of talking about um like what's the implication for like not being as transparent on the internet for companies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was like a really neat story and ties into your article because like
Yeah.
it's a prime example of like at the community level why that's like so great.
Yeah, exactly. And I think something you hit on that again I didn't get to write about because it'd be too long is like that this new economy is also not really, it's not fundamentally anymore about the exchange of money. Like what we're seeing more and more, like all those people acted on that, like that need of, oh, I have a 3D printer, I know how to 3D model, let's solve this thing without any monetary gain. But the thing, but right, humans are not altruistic. I don't believe altruism exists. What they're getting out of it is like this sense of belonging, purpose, and like a sense of satisfaction that they are something greater than themselves, right? They're
Yeah.
part of something big. And like that exchange is really what is at like, bless you, Sarah, really what is at the like crux of all of this that I think is so interesting. Like, and one of the reasons that at the end of the article I was just like spouting nonsense. I was like, this is why like we're gonna in this new world like we're gonna need to have universal basic income, right? Is because we are gonna start to be less focused, I hope, knock on wood, right? All these things like this is a big change to say that I think is going to be made, but you just like you see it in the culture, the habits of people, like all these things. Like we are less focused on money as like the objective of the economy and more focusing, I would say, on like the exchange of value in non-monetary ways. um
So
Sorry, you go.
no, I was gonna say that is so interesting you mentioned that, and I'm definitely gonna have to reach out to you about this because I literally a month ago I had this idea of kind of writing a long article about like my
Hmm.
past year because there was like a lot of value I got from working for free for a lot of
Hmm.
people. I worked
Hmm.
for free for a dean that I used to work with at Georgetown, Ascension Medical Educators, just really believed in their mission. Um, Ripple, obviously not getting paid for that. Arena Lab,
Us.
yeah, all these things, right? So I wanted to kind of like talk those journeys of all those different, like those four. There was yeah, another like side work I did for my friend. but it was just like I wanted to like reflect or to kind of contextualize why that working for free, or put something out on why working for free in this like kind of past year has actually provided me a lot more value than I thought it would have. And I think more so than an internship. Like I did an internship at Georgetown. I didn't get the same value
Right.
as this past year. I would say it's the most. So like, yeah, it's just interesting you say that because I'm still thinking through that and like what it is, but I definitely will need to talk behind the
Yeah.
scenes after Lumastic
And
about it.
Chelsea is saying write it for the Lumastic blog, which I would love. Chelsea also says for anybody that's rewatching this, Raving Fans is a book kind of about the concept of like I guess mass amounts of people coming together around a cause. She says it's more through the lens of brick and mortar. But Chelsea, if you have any more context to that book, that'd be great. Also, we should leave that in the description.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, yeah, okay, so that's really interesting. And that's like one of the things. So, God, it's crazy to think about this, but a year ago, I like flew out to Iowa to like canvas for Andrew Yang because I believed in like I believed that he was understanding a lot of these things and was like I think he would have made a really great president. And one of the things that he brought up about universal basic income was the idea of how necessary it now is because of automation, right? Like because people are going to be displaced and all these things. To me, it's more necessary because like where you and I, right, can are in life situations where we can work for like free, right? Like we can trade our time because we have monetary needs by some extensive circumstances like solved.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't, and like but if we could do that for like essentially everyone, right? If we could make sure that like poverty never existed, right? Like that that frees the collaboration economy to be way crazier in terms of like people not having to figure out how to create monetary economic engines to do cool shit in the world, right? It's like, oh, we can just like run this open source project because it's fun for us and because it's providing value to like this community of people that get to use it. And it's cool because I get like $1,500 a month to like cover basic expenses, right? And I can work like a part-time job or whatever it is to cover the rest. But like I think that this shift is like so interesting, and it also ties really in tandem with like the political culture right now where like I was listening to Bob Dylan's uh times they are a changin', and I like started to cry yesterday because I felt like what was happening in the 60s regarding like the social justice movement is like really resurging, and like I felt like it was a song written 50 years ago but for me, and um like for us. And I'm just really interested. I was talking to one of our advisors last night. First shout out to Jeff.
I was gonna ask, was it Jeff? Good.
Yes, it was Jeff, and we told Jeff like, hey, we are halting on raising money. We want to like go down this thing, and I was like nervous to bring this up to him, and he was. Cause I was worried he'd be like, oh man, I signed up for this like big venture backed thing and now they're not going to do that. So I was like worried. Keith and I were like talking in the car beforehand about how we break the news and like all these things. And Jeff was like, I'm mad. And then he like paused for a little bit and I was like, oh shit. And he's like, that you thought I'd be mad. Like,
That's so funny.
yeah. He got us. He punked us. But yeah, but we were having like a conversation about kind of like the future. He's like a big futurist, and so he like likes these conversations. He's a big crypto guy, and
Mhm.
he was talking about like the political climate and how like trust is like the thing that we're missing a lot, and what the thing that like technology and like blockchain technology specifically like can provide like some sense of like trust, not in people but in the tech that then provides the trust to the people. And yeah, we were talking about like the future of government and like all these things, and I was like, yeah, and the reason that like this 52-year-old guy who's like relatively hip, like he's not every 52, I'm not saying he represents every 52-year-old, but like the fact that these conversations are being had by not just young people but like everyone, like
Yeah.
everyone is kind of like seeing this shift the more they learn about it. And like, um, yeah, so I just think about this intersectionality between what the trends in this like new collaboration economy powered by the internet, right, mean for or tie into how we're thinking culturally about politics, and like the resurgence of justice and like, yeah, so it's so interesting that we're kind of like having this snapback away from the values of like the 80s and 90s where it was very monetary focused, right? And even the 50s, right? Very
Yeah.
monetary focused, right? And like if you think about that, like 40s and 50s, right, into the 60s, right? This was this big monetary like boom that left a lot of people in the shitter, but a lot of people got rich. And then it was like boom, 60s and 70s, like big resurgence. Then we had 80s and 90s, same deal, even bigger boom, right? And now we're having another snapback. And it's like, when is this like stretch and contract, stretch and contract gonna break, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm now like on a different plane of it. Like I'm somewhere else. So bring me back, Joshua.
No, I think. Wait, now I'm gonna have to think. We're okay. So no, but I think no. I want to kind of like just. I guess we can close that bit
That
up. But
loop.
I think yeah, I think that again, it kind of comes back to just like the way I guess the economy will work moving forward. It's like so essential that things become democratized and more people have says, and we really emphasize all kind of stakeholders and
Yeah.
also weigh stakeholders that aren't weighed heavily now, like in just all design. Just like you said, like for a creator, uh, it would be the audience and like really like tapping into that for infrastructure or like
Yeah.
whatever city development, like really yeah, like just like taking
Platform
in more,
development.
yeah, platform
Like
development. It's
even platform development, thinking
yeah,
about it as building cities,
yeah,
right? Like how are you building factions? I think I talked to you about this once or whatever, but like there's a time where I read an entire like big dense book about architectural city planning because I felt it was so resonant to how we should build stuff on the internet, right? Because like the history of like city development, right, is like people start with like a farm, right? Food is like this epicenter, right? And
yeah,
then everything gets built off of food and art, which I find fascinating. And so it's like, how do you create the conditions in spaces on the internet where like that type of development of like neighborhoods and communities and like this central area of like agrarian nature, all these things. It's just really interesting. So sorry, not to like derail what you're saying, but yes, I agree.
no, yeah. I think we could sum up that tangent there and move on to
Yeah, let's just move on. No summary. There's too much in there.
that's
All right,
hilarious.
what are we moving on
Okay,
to?
how about sorry, this is so funny. How about we have to talk a bit about into scalability and this like concept of starting from
Yep, yep.
zero. Um,
Yeah.
so do you want to kind of like introduce kind of what we were talking about prior, what we were
Sure.
thinking about getting into as it pertains to scalability and how that looks like for what that looks like for creators?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think that this is again one of those conversations that has shown me just this deep intersection between like entrepreneurialism and creators, like which proves that like right this is business, right? Like this is like creating a thing that provides value to other people, and you need to iterate a product about, right? Like you're building a product, and so like when we're talking about scalability, right, there's the obvious thing of like you could put out a video and get millions of people, but you won't, right? Like you're going to get four, and then you're going to get
We
five,
have
and then
four
you'll
right now.
yeah four. Shout shout out tar four. And so
Sorry, please, I
basically
didn't mean to interrupt.
yeah no basically it's the conversation about how do you approach this. I go from 0 to 100, right? Like and this is a conversation that lots of like creators on the internet have more like deep insight into, but the core, the crux of it all, I think that you and I were even talking about before, is this idea of like, you just have to like do it. Like, and like you have to, when two people watch your video, engage the shit out of those two people. The thing that I think creators can like delve a lot into, even if you're starting a YouTube channel or you're building an Instagram following, whatever, look at how Twitch streamers do this. Because starting something on Twitch, I think, is like, Twitch as a platform is so community oriented. And I think that it is another proving ground that like it is about the relationship you have with your audience, not the amount.
Yeah.
And one of the things that if you watch like how to be a streamer on Twitch, whatever, is like, hey, let's get good at like talking to 0 people. And then when you get one person, provide so much value, right? Create a deep, meaningful connection with that person. Ask them about like who they are, what they do for work, why they're here, what they like to play, like all these things, so that it becomes this engine of, oh, I now feel connected to Joshua, right? Like I like this. You're basically weaponizing the parasocial relationship to get that like first, what they always call like 1,000 true fans, but really you're trying to go for first 100 true fans, right? And you do that not by focusing on you, right? You focus on them, right? And become basically a place to be a spotlight. And I think that that's the same for how like everyone talks about effectuation and entrepreneurship, right? It's you do customer discovery, find 5 people, discover their problem, like be deeply embedded, right?
Yeah.
And then from there you iterate product. Again, building that relationship with those people, because that's what allows you to scale, is doing the things that don't scale. And like that's a co-opt thing from Paul Graham and Y Combinator, but I think it's again so true for creators, right? Your YouTube channel does scale, but at the beginning you have to do things that don't scale, and like email your friends and family and be like, watch my video. like all these things. Sorry, that was my diatribe, but hit me with it.
I was going to ask you for curiosity when you were learning that, right? What was that like, the initial process for you? And like, like how did it go when you went from 0 to 700?
Yeah.
What was the kind of like, how did that also process change and engagement change? And can you like give a little insight of like what that whole process and timeline was like?
Yeah, sure. So, I made a lot of videos for no people. But the thing I did to like get anybody to watch was I focused primarily on my friends and family, which was like, so Curiosity Story was not the first YouTube channel I started. When I was in middle school, I made kind of like, I guess you would call them like tech videos. But they weren't really tech videos. I was a middle schooler and didn't know anything.
Like tech review, or is just like
no, not tech review, like talking about technology.
Okay.
Like I did one of those twin videos, like a Mac PC sort of thing, and I talked about like,
oh, gotcha.
Yeah, because that's when the commercials were really big, and so I like made one of those. But back then it was not cool to make videos on the internet, so I hid them very fervently from my friends and family. I actually remember specifically a moment where one of my cousins had drafted an email to so my friends, we had like I guess basically a listserv in email, and my cousin like drafted an email with one of my videos linked in it and was gonna send it, and I like started to yell at him and cry because I was like, please don't do that. Like I was so afraid, and for good reason, because then later on people did find out about my YouTube channel and I got bullied and then deleted all my videos. That's why my name on YouTube is It's Just Drew It 2, is because I've tried to figure out whether or not I deleted the whole channel or if I just deleted the videos and forgot the password. I like literally very recently tried to access to see if any of my videos still were there. But blah blah blah. Yeah, so I did not do that then, and that's something that like I really regret, because I think that if I had just said like, been more confident in myself to be like, this is a thing that I care about and do, and like I'm just gonna do it, I think that my life trajectory would be a little different, and I think I'd be better at at the internet, and like making stuff on the internet.
I
I would
mean,
have saved myself a lot of time. Basically, is what I'm saying.
I think it's a necessary lesson. I think also you saying you're not good on the internet is complete cap. Because you're the best person I honestly know, like, who's, I mean, you're probably the best, like, the go-to person. If someone was to ask me it's just such a funny question. Who's good at the internet? I would say Drew Lytle. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. You'd be the first person that came to mind. Uh, but
I appreciate that, Joshua.
no, but I was just gonna say, isn't it like, it's just so stupid and crazy that people like hate on that, like, and that comes
Yeah,
from, like, last week we were talking about how like the culture kind of like discourages you falling in love with the process. You love
yeah.
the process and you want to put it out, but like, um right,
We're
like,
so focused on
yeah,
product,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right? That it derails everyone. It
yeah,
derails everyone's growth.
yeah,
Yeah, and so when I started Curiosity, when I made the decision like the summer after my second year of college that I was like really gonna try, because I like right I had worked at UVA. I had just finished up I guess then it would have been the next summer. Go get a job at the Smithsonian, like all these things. I loved to make videos. I still love to make videos. I just don't get to do it that much. But yeah, I was like, I'm really doubling down. And so after I'd put out every video, I'd text group chats, I'd send emails, I'd post every single one of them on Facebook. I just tried to leave shame entirely out of it. Like the PTSD, like it was immersion therapy. And it really helped. Because the reason when I started to do that was so I had been a part of a couple of internet communities through the Vlogbrothers, and so sharing them in those was obviously really helpful because it's educational content, and that's how I got found by the We Create EDU community, that Slack group for other educational creators, which then was like big trajectory time because one of my videos got the Project for Awesome, the thing we were talking about that the Vlogbrothers do that raises a bunch of money for charity. I got featured as one of the like featured creators. I did video about basically this charity that has a very few amount of staff and just figures out where the money would go best. They like do a huge analysis on basically every other charity and then give the money to them.
wow,
And so I did like a whole video about how we do good better. And yeah, it got featured, which was then the thing that like I think I still remember the day I was with my mom and my sister when I started to just like get pings and pings that I was like getting subscribers, people commenting on my, like at this point I had gotten like 45 views a video, and this one I think got at least 4,000 in like the first 24 hours.
whoa,
And I went from I think like 55 subscribers to like 350, and like way more comments and engagements than any other ones. People saying things like, and this is like a common thing that like a lot of small creators that like know how to make videos and are just trying now to put out like build a channel get told is like, you have really good videos, it's surprising that you don't have more views. I remember one
so much.
Yeah, exactly. I remember one comment specifically said like, you're about to blow up, like these are so good. And it never happened because because this game is way longer than people think it is, and it is not so much about talent.
Yeah,
Right, it's this thing of right the skill and taste, it's about persistence. And the drop off that happened for me where so I continued, like that was a good thing. I made a really a New Year's video that like got a lot of views, and then the next one after that was the one that's still the best on my channel, which is the Why Do Instruments Sound Different? And that video was picked up a bunch because my choir director, so I've been again sharing everything on Facebook, right? It's about who you know, it's this like scalability network effect thing. So I made a video about music, and I referenced my choir director from high school in that video as like a big inspiration point, and she shared shared it with the Facebook group for basically all of the, she was the president for basically the Virginia Music Educators
Oh,
Association,
wow.
and shared it in that Facebook group. And that is what propels that video still today, is like teachers at schools show it in classes.
That is so
Um,
cool.
yeah, it's awesome. And so I still like every week basically get a comment that was like, I saw this in class. Like it's a very evergreen video for me. But yeah, after that one, I made like two more, and then my internship at the Smithsonian started, and then it was like I just kind of fizzled out. And like that again is proof that this is about persistence, right? This is about continuing to be in the slog and do it with no growth, right? Because
Yeah.
you enjoy the process. And basically, it was too complicated for me it was too time intensive for me to make those videos, that I just didn't keep up with it anymore. And yeah, it's like the thing I was telling you, I told Chelsea at dinner the other night, is like, I didn't want it enough, right? Like I can say like I wanted Curiository to have 5,000 subscribers. I actually mentioned that in my New Year's video. I was like, at the end of this year, I want 5,000 subscribers. I'm gonna make a video every week. Blah 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 blah. None of that shit ever happened, and it's because I didn't want enough. You didn't want to drudge through the drudgery of continuing to like put out stuff. And that's why like now what I tell people all the time is like, make the process, and we talked about this last week, like make the process as easy for you as possible so that you can iterate fast, right?
Yeah.
And I think that in combination with the do things that don't scale, tell everyone, posts on like tell everyone you know, right? Start with the network of people that start with your support network, your community that you already have from being a human person in life,
Yeah.
right? And then you will figure out how to expand that and grow. But it starts with that. Sorry, again, that was a big old diatribe.
No, I was literally gonna just say at the end, like to make the process easier, like Lumastic Live, it translates to marketing content. Like that's
Exactly. And like I literally was
perfect
telling
example.
Hannah Han, one of the our interns this summer, I was like, the reason that we do this live show as a live show and like this, right? And we're spouting these ideas in kind of this more casual way, is because it is, I can be on the floor doing exercise and then forget that we have to do this and then immediately do it, and we've made a video, right?
Yeah, we
Like
did it.
at 10 a.m. we've made a video.
Yeah.
Like we've put something out, and it's the barrier to entry is way low. We come like literally, if anybody hasn't realized this, we don't plan except for 15 minutes before.
Yeah.
And then we get on and go. But I'm really proud of everything that we put out. I'm like I think that it's the good stuff. I like to listen to it back, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's just finding that structure that works for you and trying as hard as you possibly can to not be an artist about it, which is like a really whack thing that I had to learn, is that Michael Seibel says this line that like startups are really unforgiving to artists. And I think it's true. I think it's true of building any business. And like if you want to grow a YouTube channel, if you want to do this and like for it to be your life and all these things, it's a business. And so
Yeah.
you can't be an artist about it. You have to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And that ties
Yeah.
back into last week, and literally like just like setting deadlines for your content, you got to treat it like that. If you go too much in the artist mindset, right? Like you're gonna
Yeah.
go like the perfect example you said is like take 6 weeks to make a video, or like 8 weeks, rather than nope,
Right.
this is the 2 week period. I'm gonna have to use.
I have to
principles of
ship something.
Yeah, principles of effectuation. Work to publish and put something out. And then
Yeah.
it's worked. Again, I think it's really cool, like what we've kind of developed, or the operation here, because like it works really well every single week, I think, and in many ways. And even like going back, scrubbing through the content, putting it out as TikToks, Reels, Instagrams, tweets, articles, even, and blog posts. It's just like really cool, and it will lead to that it ties into persistence, like you said, because like you said, every Friday 9 a.m. you're like, can be
We're here. We're doing
out,
it.
then jump up, you're like, go sit
Yeah,
on and talk about an idea the first 15 minutes before.
exactly. And by 10 a.m. it's shipped.
Yeah.
And like this is something that I had to kind of like eat my own dog food on with this collaboration economy article, because I was like entrenched in this idea, and I was like, there's so much shit I want to talk about here. And finally Sarah on Monday or what, or yeah, no, I guess it was Tuesday, was like, you have to finish it by lunch. She was like, you've been working, because I worked on it through the weekend. I was like, there's just, it's, this is really important and all these things. And she was like, you have to finish it by lunch. And I was like, okay. And so then it was like, let's scrap stuff.
Yeah.
Like, let's throw stuff out. Let's restructure and just like get something that can ship. Right.
Yeah.
Because like that idea is iterable.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what's the beauty of the medium of, again, like what I talked about last week about writing, is like, I could go write another thing. I could go write a part two. Right.
Yeah.
It's really hard with video if I want to like put together this like video essay style thing that I like to do, to have the thing that I feel like is super lasting, has everything I want to say, and can be shipped, right? Because I'd have to like go through all those iteration cycles before I can ship the video. And with writing, you have to do that. Chelsea said, I disagree about this still, for the record. That's fine, Chelsea. You can disagree with me. It's totally fine. Yeah. I will say, if you want to like be podcaster, all these things, I think that this is an important operating mindset. I could send you a lot of people smarter than me that say the same things. Like Jack Conte, again, is like one of my biggest inspirations here. Like, frickin' has optimized the shit out of being a musician, right? He and his band Pomplamoose, he's the CEO of a fucking venture-backed company that just raised $100 million, right? He has no time, but he is at his core like an artist, a musician. But he was like, if I want to do this, I need to make it way down. And so he literally writes out like, okay, these are the covers we want to do. Here's like the song we want to like write. And the band gets together for 9 hours in a studio once a month, and they record as much as they can.
Really?
Yeah, and they don't do more than 3 takes. They don't do more than 3 takes for any song, and they ship.
No way. Wow.
And so over the past year, they've put out like, I think it's like 13 albums of just like all of their recordings. And some of them suck. Some of them are meh. Some of them are great.
Yeah.
It's just that their operating mindset allows them to get more greats faster because they go through the slog of getting rid of all the garbage, right? And that they just are working to ship. They don't get hung up. And I think it's amazing. Yeah, it's like so inspirational to me, the way that they have kind of like completely. Also, shout out to Pomplamoose. If you've never heard their stuff, they're really cool.
You're talking about AJR last, right?
Yeah.
Last week?
AJR last week, like kind
Yeah.
of a similar operating mindset is they like, okay, we're going to write the song in an hour. If it's good, great. If it's not, we'll throw it in the can. It's there if we ever want to reiterate on it, but we're moving on.
Yeah.
Right. And again, it's down to this core belief system that your next idea will always be better.
Yeah. You know that
Right.
another artist that like this pertains to is Juice World. Have you heard of Juice World?
Yes.
He made his whole second album, not mixtape, in like I think 2 weeks, a week and a half, and it was freestyled like off the top.
Yep.
And he just puts it now. The one thing that's actually really crazy. Might be a tangent, but I will be quick with this. His leaks, because like after he died, he had so many songs that he didn't release. He already released a lot of songs, but he had so many songs that weren't released. And I guess his family and record label are still trying to figure out what to do with that. But now they're going for like insane amount of money on like leak websites. Like my friend texted me the other day, like just a freestyle that he like freestyled, and like it was like a minute and a half, went for like $10,000.
Yeah.
Someone bought it, and it's just like insane. But he's a good example of someone who puts stuff out like crazy, and he always was doing that since he was a kid. Like he was constantly freestyling, and he would like just go freestyle, put it out, If it's good, it's good. If it's not, scrap it. But
Yeah,
they have
exactly.
like thousands
People.
on thousands of songs.
Yeah, and like what that made me think of because of like the NFT thing implication here is like Beeple, the guy that sold one of his like pieces of graphic art for $69 million. Right. Let's set aside the monetary amount, right? And just focus on like why that guy is so resonant in culture, right? Is because he literally put out something every single day for 10 years.
Wow.
Some of it sucked, some of it was funny, right? All these things, but every day he committed to himself that he was going to put out something. And like Chelsea, you were like, I still agree with this for the record. I'm not saying like I'm an expert in this is completely right, but what I do think is completely right is that publishing anything is better than wishing that you published something. And like that mentality of like I'm just going to put something out every day allows you to overcome that quickly.
Also, it's easy to get caught up in like when you don't put something out and waiting even more and more and more versus
Right.
you kind of not hold yourself to a schedule, but you yeah, again, you kind of have a stricter deadline of when you're going to put something out by.
Yeah.
Um,
And like again, you're just saving yourself. It's the hardest thing to do. And again, I'm a testament to this because of this article I put out on Tuesday, right? Like it is hard to feel like, "Oh, I this thing is important and I if I can just work on this a little longer, a little longer, a little longer, it'll be the best it can be," right? It's untrue. But you like we are trained in our brains to believe that it is true. And so even me who's spouting all this stuff, I struggle with this. But it is like these North Star people that I feel like have like figured it the fuck out, have overcome the like thing in our brains that prevents us from doing that. That I am just like I try every time to be more like. Yeah, because it's a game changer. Like, yeah, it's just fascinating to me. Like, and the OG one here that everybody now is like referencing and knows about is like how Alexander Hamilton wrote, right? The whole like thing in that Liza Hamilton or whatever in the song is like, why do you write like you're running out of time, right? Like he literally like was like, I could die at any moment, so I need to just like vomit this stuff out. I need it to exist,
yeah.
right? And he was a great writer, and so it was that medium was really easy for him to just pummel stuff. But it was also the culture of the time, right? Like no one expected when you wrote something and put it out at that time. It's kind of like what blogging is now, right? You don't expect it to be like this work of art. It's not the next great
Yeah.
American novel, which like didn't even exist back then because America didn't really exist. It's like it's just this is the idea. This is the thing that I'm publishing. It's a pamphlet. It's a leaflet, whatever. And now we think of them with reverence, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't know, right? We were talking before this about it's the to get to switch this mindset. It's also like the difference between believing that or being comfortable being Picasso versus Kim Kardashian, right? Kim Kardashian's super relevant now, right? Like fucking just like more money than anyone could ever want, more attention than anyone probably ever wants.
I don't
Like
know
really
about
resonant.
the new generation. Like I saw some study that's like
I
30%
know it's
want to
scary.
like yeah, I don't
Yeah, it's
anyways,
scary.
not to stop, but yeah, so
No. But like, yeah, it's the difference between that and being Picasso, right?
yeah.
Picasso, like, no one gave a shit about anything he did until he died,
And now it's
right?
started.
But he painted anyway, right? Because of the belief that like this is important to me, and maybe somebody will find this interesting later, or never. But like, it's important to me that it exists. Um, yeah, and just like that is so inspirational to me, and like I think if more people can free themselves, and it's also cooler, I think, to be Picasso. I mean, he's the one that went crazy, right? And like all these things. So maybe not that part,
Yeah.
but like,
I
but
think all the yeah, I think all like really great artists are a little bit
a little bit wackadoo. It's because of the
yeah.
paint. Have you heard that theory that like the chemicals that they had to use for paint back then like fucked their brains up?
Oh, really? I haven't.
Yeah. And so the fact that they were surrounded in these like small studios, just like full, because they also like,
And just
yeah,
breathing it all
exactly.
in. Oh my
It's
God.
like the Mad Hatter thing that
Uh,
like they just like eventually went crazy. I'm not an expert in this. I can't confirm or deny, but all the it's just something I've heard. Faith said like the LaCroix flavor. I don't really remember what that was in reference to, but I wanted to read the chat. So thank you, Faith, for putting something in the chat. Thank you, Faith, for being here, Chelsea, and
good
our
chat.
third person who might be my mom or Jen. Who knows? All right, Joshua, we have like 12 more minutes here. Like, what's our closing thoughts on this scale? But what things haven't we talked about
I
yet that you
think
think are important?
I think the last part of scalability, so we talk kind of like this idea of the 0 to 100, but like
Mhm.
let's talk about the like 100 to the Hank Greens and like what your
Yeah,
thoughts on that and like what how different that is and like how important that like I guess like final thoughts on how important that engagement that we were talking about in the beginning of this episode is to have with your audience and what that will look like for the next decade.
yeah, cool. So again, a lot of like more relevant people. Pamplemousse, the LaCroix flavor. I see. Greater the
Oh,
LaCroix
yes.
flavor.
I forgot about that.
Yes, like grapefruit. Right, it's grapefruit. That's what pamplemousse means.
I
Um,
just like that flavor. That's all I know. I don't know how to explain it.
yeah, I think it's grapefruit in French. It's something in French, but yeah, if you have not checked them out, they're really cool. Okay. So this like, how do you go from 100 to 1,000, 10,000, million, whatever? Again, a lot of I'm gonna parrot a lot of smarter people. But this is talked about as like the what you do in a call to action as an early stage YouTuber. So in that like 0 to 500, you're asking people to comment. All right, you're giving them a question. You're engaging them as human. Right, you're building relationship. So you ask them to comment about something, and then you reply to every single fucking comment. And you start to build this like deep conversation. Then once you pass like a certain point where like there is a consistent amount of people who care when you post a video, right? Like they're gonna come and they're gonna comment without saying it or without you saying it and all these things. Boom, that's when you can pivot to this next phase of call to action, which is share this video, right? Like because now you have fans, you have like a community, you have like some ride or dies. And so what those people can now do for you is, whereas before, to get that first 500 you told people please watch my thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then when those people watched your thing, you were like, okay, now tell me what you think and I'll reply, and like let's have a conversation about this thing. Now you're engaging them as like a then scalable way for what you did before, right? Because you reaching out to ask everybody to watch your video is really unscalable, but you getting 500 people to tell one person, right?
Yeah.
Really scalable,
The
right?
morning
And yeah, exactly. It becomes exponential. But to get to that point, you can't immediately ask somebody to share the video, right? That's
Yeah.
like asking somebody to like give you a reference for a job on the street. Like, can I put you down as a reference? Like, you meet somebody in a coffee shop and you're like, hey, can I put you down as a reference? I'm applying to this job,
Definitely
right? No one would
quote
ever do
that.
that.
Quote that. Definitely. Someone please quote that and hang it up on a wall because that.
Yeah, but that's really what it's like.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you need to have real relationships before you can say like, hey, will you vouch for me? Right?
Yeah.
Will you like stake claim your own reputation on mine?
Yeah.
Right? And that comes way later, but that's then how you grow exponentially is that's like the meaning of virality, right? And yeah, that's like how it works is, and there's no real strict number. Like it depends a lot on your content, the community you're targeting, like all these things. Like there's no number that you can say of like, okay, once you hit this, then you can ask people to share. It's about how
Yeah.
it feels in your comments section. It's about like how you feel and how your community feels about the thing that you're putting out in the world, your message. And so, yeah, people don't talk about it like that. Usually, like they try because people want to hear a number, but there's no number. And like for and when I say like it depends on your content, like there is a ceiling for every niche, right?
Yeah.
Um, like the what like a Pokemon trading card YouTube channel is never gonna be Mr. Beast level, right? Because the community, the people that care about that topic, is way smaller than let's give people free money, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it depends. It's I think more about the a relationship connection, like how it feels in that comment section, and then what ethereal sort of percentage do you have of that community that then you can start to pivot out, because you can get a long way by like post like Bucket Patrol, Destin. I told him like, hey, your people are on Twitter. Just get really fucking good at Twitter, right? Like calm the YouTube thing for a little bit and just like be really engaged with NBA 2K, people who care about NBA 2K, because if you care about the thing they care about, you become kind of like a leader, right, in this arena. And then you say like, hey, guys, I make videos. Like, let's have deep conversations about this thing. Go find me on this YouTube channel. Boom, you're in.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with engaging on Reddit, whatever. It's that you are a valuable person to this community. And so when you do stuff, right, because you've been so supportive to the community, they will support you. Yeah, because again, it's all about building relationships. And that's why this is fundamentally different than selling Oreos.
Yeah. I think I actually have seen Destin more on Twitter like recently.
Yeah, he's doing great.
Yeah.
I had a meeting with him last week or a couple weeks ago.
Oh, how'd that go?
Oh, he's great. Like his running app is like they're about to like launch their beta in Austin, which I'm sad about because I want to use this as an excuse to get back on my bike. I don't if people don't remember,
Yeah.
but they didn't watch the Spark Spotlight. Destin is a YouTuber who's also working on this app that is essentially like Pokemon Go but for cardio. Or like Splatoon meets Pokemon Go for cardio. So it's like a territory capturing app. But to capture a territory, you have to like run or bike or walk or like do something to like go around that path, and then you capture it for your team. So it's like a way of making exercise communal and fun and like all this stuff, like gamifying the whole process. And so I think it's super cool and interesting. Everyone I've told about it thinks it's like has a lot of legs.
I think so. I love the idea when I was watching and
Yeah,
going
right.
through the
Like,
macros of that Spark
and
Spotlight.
yeah, and now I just want it to be in Charlottesville so that we can
Let's
like
get a Lumastic live team going. Get a Lumastic
yes,
team going.
we'll do a live stream of like everybody running, like with the community updates while running.
So let me tell you about the creator economy real quick.
That's a niche. That's a niche right there. Oh my god, Pokemon cardio. Love that, Chelsea. You got to get him on the phone. Pokemon Card Go is like even like another step there. Cool, killer. Joshua, anything else? Any other updates? Any other things
No
as we
updates.
close out?
I guess it's the closeouts to the audience is the last thing.
Yeah, and just like what we just said, right? Like, hello to the 3 people who have been watching this. If like you're working on something interesting, you have a story to share, whatever, about something, a project you've been working on or something you've learned, leave it in the comment down below. It's really helpful for us to kind of like build out this community and to kind of see what you're working on and how like we can be helpful as everybody trying to just like make stuff in the world in this collaboration economy. Chelsea said, "I'm in marketing." That's her new joke. She said the Pokemon card to go. Yeah, she said, "I'm in marketing."
It's so funny.
Yeah, so leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel. We've been like growing the subscriber base, but yeah, we always want more people to be kind of join this. And if you click the bell icon, then you'll be notified when we have this Lumastic live. But for the foreseeable future, we will always be here at 9 a.m. on Fridays Eastern time.
Or even engage with us on Twitter. Like let's start conversations and
Yeah.
on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, you can find me at It's Just Druid. You can also find Lumastic as at This Is Lumastic. And then Joshua, what's yours again?
Joshua_Blair_.
Sick.
I need to change my name, man. It's
That double
so
underscore, baby.
Irish. It's ridiculously Irish.
All right, everyone.
But-
Thank you for joining us. Joshua, any closing statements, any sign-offs you've been thinking about?
Any sign-offs? No, that's it. Other than
All right.
I don't know, end it with a funny Lumastic like comment that like dude, there's so many bites that you can like we need a soundboard. So like, all right, see you next week. To the moon, or just make fun of me, or
To the moon. I love To the Moon. That's such a good one. Well, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. And we'll see you next week, Friday, 9 a.m. Hope to see you there. All right. Bye.
see you.
Nice.
How crazy would it be?